grieving is hard, and it's certainly, this journey is different for each person. And I think a lot of people have these different things that they are saying to you, but you have to find your own path on what's right for you. And if you can find a purpose to put your energy into that is positive, then that's good for your soul. And that's what I would encourage people to do, is that, and to me, that's a way of nurturing your soul here.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming grief. I'm delighted to welcome Ksenia Merck. Ksenia is an artist, architect, creative storyteller, and publisher. You can reach Ksenia at her website, merckiipress.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Ksenia. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Oh, thank you so very much, Linda. I'm so glad to be here with you and your audience. Very exciting.
Thank you, and I appreciate what you have to contribute today, because one of the hardest things that we have to deal with in life is grief. And you have found a creative and unique way to help you overcome your grief. And I do want to just extend my condolences. I'm sorry for your loss. And I appreciate that you're using what you have learned to help not only yourself, but to pay it forward and to help others. Would you be willing to share your story?
Yes, and thank you for this opportunity, because really it's been a journey, but it also is one that I do want to share with people, because I think that there's a real opportunity to help people here. And my story is that um, I was very close to my mom. She was had my brother and I later in life in her 40s. She was a World War II veteran, and she lived with Bill and I for 14 years, and she passed when she was 102. And that was in August of 22. And the 23 was really still it was very hard for me. And then at the fall of 23, we found out Bill had prostate cancer, which was, just another hurdle. But then, and the doctors really gave us a lot of hope with meds and such. And, so we were encouraged, and we went on a trip over Christmas and came back. And the beginning of January, he was not doing well. So I ended up taking him to the emergency. Um, all kinds of bad, just off the charts bad. And we walked in saying we thought it was drug interactions, these meds not mixing, something off there. And the bottom line was that they really could not figure out why he was having this extreme reaction. And we had I want to say it was very rocky just being in the hospital. And I was encouraging Bill to, get better so we could write a book together about our hospital experience and how we could help people through that, because that in itself was traumatic. And then um, there were some signs that really led us to it was not good, and he couldn't do any more in the hospital with the treatment, so he passed over in March of 24. And while we were in the hospital, he was very excited about his third book that he had authored and wanted that published. So I said, absolutely, of course we're going to publish it. And we talked with his editor, and he sketched out, he wanted his colored pencils, our colored pencils, and wanted to sketch something out. And so he said, well, we got to have this, we got to have this. And so the plan all along was I would paint the cover. And it was just shocking, and the whole experience numbing after he passed. And it took me a long time to just get to the point where I could open the book and read it. Um and once I did, oh, the spark hit me, and he was with me. I mean, I think he had been with me the time leading up to that, but um he was with me, and I was excited because in the book there's stories. He captured a lot of stories about us. He wove a lot of our experiences into the book, and so, that just really it just was to the core, touching me. And I came away from reading the book because I had to respond to the editor, and I met with her on a Saturday, and I was charged up and so excited. I had notes. I wanted to make some edits. And then the art started, and it was like the switch went on for me. And um I just started really going after it, just like he went after the book. He really went after this book, and I think for it to be 448 pages, he really he went after it. And so it was like it's kind of like the same thing. I went after the sketching part of it, and I could really feel him with me as I'm starting to do these vignette paintings and the composition of the book and cover that you see here on the screen. And just it gave me a chance because I was, I was doing, but I mean, I was doing things that I needed to do in my daily life, but the book, this sparked me, and the art sparked me. So, that's the story.
It sounds like it gave you a lot of meaning and purpose.
It
So,
it did, and it has. And this has given me a purpose, and it's important for me um to really honor and respect his legacy. And that is really very important to me.
absolutely. And your story, I knew that you had lost Bill, but I wasn't aware that it was so close after having lost your mother. And
Yes.
what an interesting and unusual situation that you have had your mother staying with you for 14 years, which is a long time. And
Hmm.
she lived to be 102 years old.
Hmm.
So I would imagine that from your perspective, you would think, okay, that's what a lifespan looks like. I can expect a nice long time together. And then with your husband, you did not have that 102 years. May I
No,
ask how old he was when he passed?
79.
79.
So, and he is several years older than me. So, I mean, there was an age difference there, but and I think that that's part of it is that for me, I think because our bond was so close, I never really looked at Bill like he had an age.
Right.
And so I think that was even harder for me, that and added to the unexpected aspect, you know what I mean, of him passing at that age. And he was
Absolutely.
always, what's so shocking too is that he was the kind of person that when he had the flu or felt a little bit bad, he would go take a nap for an hour and come back out and be refreshed. If I had the flu, I'm like, oh, I got the flu. But he would, he just bounced back all the time from different things. And so this was just another added shock to the whole experience with him because he was just never that person that was sick, you know? And um and also, being that close to my mom, and then you do have this kind of sense that, okay, well, she's lived all this time, and so we're going to live all that time. And so there's just no guarantee of that.
No, there's not. And life does not always turn out the way we expect. In fact, it often does not turn out the way that we expect. And we have to be resilient and go with the flow.
Hmm.
So I would love to talk a little bit more about you and your experience and then make it broader and how this applies to other people as they're dealing with their grief. And especially I think unexpected grief has that extra measure of, I didn't see this coming. I'm
Mhm.
dealing with shock as well as grief and all of those things. So from what I'm hearing, it almost sounds like, in a way, what he wrote was a love letter to you, and you finishing it and publishing it is your love letter to him.
Absolutely.
And I think that that is
Absolutely.
so beautiful.
And I think that that's why, um, for me, these sketches, although I know he was right here doing them with me, I was doing that for him. And then, so that's another reason why, for me, in the, you'll see two books here. One is the Ghostflower book that he authored, and then I've authored the Ghostflower Companion Journal that has the sketches, but it has these spiritual and philosophical questions that tie to the book. And so to me, that journal was so important to do to complement his work so that it is, he dedicated that book to me and I'm dedicating the journal to him. So it is really like um two love letters. It's a wonderful analogy that you have there, but it's really true.
That is absolutely beautiful. And so we'll get into that even more. And part of the topic, I have not yet read the story, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't know everything, but it's a story where love transcends eras and
Hmm.
humanity's survival depends on timeless connections. And then again goes with this love letter that you two have written, where it's love transcends and
Hmm.
timeless connections. So that's quite beautiful. So will you please tell me about the journal? So is this something, from what I understand about the book, is it like a fantasy novel? And
Yes.
then you have taken it and added a journal to make it be, okay, this is not just a story, but this applies to me, perhaps?
Well, in the book, the story of the book is about saving humanity, about saving people in the future. And so this group in the future in 2035 does time travel to 1585, the time of Shakespeare, to plant clues about this mysterious ghost flower that was brought here by aliens from the Andromeda galaxy thousands of years prior to. Well, there's a lot there with different eras. And there are love stories in the book, and there are multiple love stories in the book that is really wonderful. Um, and but there's action, adventure, historical figures, so there's a lot going on. And what I did with the book was I was going to initially draw some really quick vignette sketches for each chapter, and I started that, and then they started getting more involved, more involved. So, so the sketches, really, I think in the book are only 2 inches by 2 inches. And so I did the journal so that the sketches could be larger so that, and I grouped them because there were certain sketches that were relating to one another with synchronicities and different hidden meanings that I was putting into the sketches. So I organized the journal based on the sketches, but the table of contents ties it to a chapter with these. So each sketch is tied to a chapter, and then that chapter I've got references for, different quotes or different philosophical or spiritual questions that came up in the book. Like, what is your purpose? Would you do time travel? Um, would you do something to, save humanity? Would you do these things? Would you do time travel to meet your twin flame? Um, these are all the questions that are in this journal that when you're reading the book, then to me, it was like these were the questions that were coming out that I really wanted to showcase for other people because some of these things you're reading it, but when you really started to look at the depth of what he's got in here, it's significant. So that's why I did the journal to really further, as I said, complement his work. Um, so that's why I did that. And that has given me a huge purpose.
And that's fantastic. So what a beautiful thing. And that the book sounds fascinating. We've got Shakespeare and aliens and time travel. It sounds like a Doctor Who episode kind of, and all this
Mhm.
stuff. And we are the hero of our own story. And so how clever to say, okay, you are the hero of your story. How would you like to write it if you could expand and do
Mhm.
these other things? So that's wonderful. So you were almost given the next right step for handling your grief. Here's a book. Here's my love letter to you. Here's something you can finish. Can we broaden this now and say someone else is dealing with grief, but they weren't given a partially finished book or that love letter? Do you have some suggestions for what they could do in their own story to help with their grief?
Well, I think that, it's certainly this journey is different for each person. And but if there is something that, the this book and the aspects of it sparked me, he sparked me, and I know that he's still here with me too. And I have just such a huge comfort in knowing that. But I think that, there could be something that maybe an unfinished project that someone has had that if you're close to them, it was important to them, or, a cause for volunteering for a certain aspect. Um, or it could be something new that puts your energy into, you know, um, preserving and fostering their legacy. So it could be any of the combination or any of those things. But I think that that's really important if you've got that kind of connection with the person that you've lost, that you want to honor them. Um, grieving is hard, and it's I I think that this business of, well, you know, by X amount of time you should be better. You should be moving on, and you should be doing this, and you should be doing that. Well, I have people, saying, "Oh yeah, well, take care of yourself, and you're young and go well, not that young." But go do this or go do that or and you know, I think a lot of people have these different things that they are saying to you, but you have to find your own path on what's right for you. And if you can find a purpose to put your energy into that is positive, then that's good for your soul. And that's what I would encourage people to do, is that, and to me, that's a way of nurturing your soul here. Um, and for me, I believe that this was planned for me, that I have a soul contract with Bill. I believe this very strongly, because it's just there's too many coincidences or things that are aligning, that I just believe so strongly that and about that, and that I also know that I just feel right now, I feel closer to Bill now than I even when he was here. And when he was here, we were close. He was the person that I wanted to talk to. And I still do, but I just feel just such a bond with him, that's why, another reason why this is so important for me, because I think it's important to him too. This is a big
Absolutely.
part of his legacy, and I respect that. Um, but your question about how can other people who are grieving, how can they do something to, to go forward? And I think it's find a cause, find a purpose, find something that honors that person, or find a new cause that you think will make a difference for other people. And I think that that's really important.
Thank you. And I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared, that it's okay to not have a certain timetable And it's okay to not just try to jump in and just live your life forward, that it's okay to find your own path. And whatever that path looks like, I think it will be benefited if there's meaning and purpose and
Mm-hmm.
some direction in there. And I love that the meaning and purpose that you've chosen also specifically honors someone that you have loved and lost. And I think that can help add additional meaning and purpose. But
Mm-hmm.
it is true that we each, I mean, we grieve differently, we process differently, and I don't think it's just necessarily a matter of time. I think we need to process that grief. And you have had a beautiful, very specific path to process and to be able to move forward. So I hope for anyone who is listening, who is in the process of grieving, um, that you will be able to find some meaning and purpose to be able to process that, because we don't want to just hold it forever. We don't need to hold the grief to hold the love of the person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with loss, people get those connected, and they
Mm-hmm.
think if I'm not still grieving, that means in some way I am dishonoring their memory. And I don't agree with that at all.
No, I agree with you totally. And I think that um, and I'm not sure how long grieving goes on. It's interesting because there's you're when this first happens and it's so traumatic, I think you're in a blur. I was in a blur. And, I don't, it took me a while before I could actually know that I was smiling about something. It took me a long time to actually know I was doing that. And it took me a long time maybe to smile or to recognize it. But um, I'm saying that because um, it's good. You need to get to the point where you can smile and not feel guilty because you're not grieving at that moment. You know what I mean? But it's a process. You're gonna smile, and then you're gonna dip, and then you're gonna smile, and this is gonna go. This is gonna go as a process until it gets to be a little bit more leveled out. I don't think that for me, I do I miss Bill? Oh my God, yes. You know, I think, you know, you just have to go at your own pace. And when you make progress or you have that moment where you smile, it's okay and it's a good thing. And you need to do it and you just need to recognize that that's a breakthrough and celebrate that and keep going, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for visiting with me today, and I appreciate that you sharing about how your art and your creativity helped you to process and to write this love letter. Is there anything else you want to make sure we cover before we close today?
I would say that it's so important to take your time to be true to yourself, to honor your loved one, and to really look at how you go forward. So those are really important to me.
Thank you, and I appreciate you visiting with me today.
Thank you so very much.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Eileen Miller. She said, "Art can permeate the very deepest part of us, where no words exist." Today, I invite our listeners to explore art and creativity as ways to process emotions and loss. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.